If you have zero profit and you're thinking, I need to hire another person to solve your profit problems, don't do that. That's stupid.
In my opinion, the only way to have true time freedom is building a team.
We need to turn our job into an actual asset, something that can operate without us so we can actually achieve time freedom.
If you're thinking about starting your practice and you don't want to hire, don't start your practice.
We're going to be talking about how to confidently hire somebody. Welcome to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to confidently hire somebody. So if you're thinking about hiring or wondering when to hire, today we're going to talk about all the fears, the do's, the don'ts, how to know that you're actually in a good spot and it's time to hire and you're hiring for the right reasons. So we're going to share all of our experience in the many hires that Ben and I have gone through to help you feel a little bit easier about the whens, the hows, and the who's about hiring your first PT, whether it's your first employee, whether it's a PT or an admin or any other person that you're wanting to add into your team. Ben, I know you've done so many trainings and so many talks on this, both at our live events and inside of our course areas. And I know you have a wealth of knowledge on this particular subject.
It's one of the biggest decisions that people make in their practice. And one of the reasons that it's the biggest is obviously hiring your first employee is a big deal, but it's also at a time when your business is most vulnerable too. There's not as much of a foundation. And so it's a big deal. And so excited to talk about this and what to avoid and what to look for and all that too. So
let's just get this out in the open. Hiring your first person, hiring any person is fucking scary. It's like, if you've never done it before, the vast majority of you listening to this, like, you never intended to be an entrepreneur. You never intended to have the weight of your own well-being and your family's financial well-being on your shoulders, covering your own healthcare, covering all your own stuff, let alone the livelihood of another human being that didn't sign up necessarily for, you to be helping provide for their own family. It's a really scary place to be. And so if you are terrified of that, just know that's super normal. But let's talk about the cost of not hiring somebody. Okay. Because I think before we get into the do's and the don'ts, we have to understand, why is it worth it? And why do you need to do it? By talking about the cost of inaction.
Yeah, I mean, the cost of inaction is you're not going to be able to impact as many people's lives. Like, you can only, like, when I was treating full time, it was just me and doing everything in the business. Like, I was exhausted at 25 patients a week, like 25 hours of patient care, and then juggling everything else, calling leads, finances, learning how to run a business, all that stuff. It's a lot. And so you're gonna be capped out at how many people you can actually help. And that's why there's a lot of new cash practices popping up, but I really don't view practices that are just going to be a solo practitioner as competition. Like, they're going to be capped out at 20, 25 patients. Like, after that, there's just be overflow, and it's not even really make a big difference. Populations of over 100,000 people, just doesn't make a difference, right? That's the big thing, is you're just not going to be able to help so many people. You're going to be exhausted. Like, I think the most miserable place I was at in my business was when I was treating patients full time at 20 to 25 and doing everything. And at the end of the day, that was my goal, right? I had met this goal. Like, I want to be able to have my own practice. I want to be able to not worry working for somebody else. And here I was, actually just as miserable as I was working, in a mill. At least I was only working 40 hours. I was working 60, 80 hours at the beginning. And that's the other alternative is, do you want to continue to burn yourself out that way?
Right. And that's kind of the path that every single new practice owner needs to go through, where it's like, you're terrified that things aren't going to work out. They start to work out and you're like, holy smokes, it's the best thing ever. Maybe you go full time in that practice, and then you get busier and busier. Then you realize that between treating the patients, doing notes, doing the marketing, maintaining local relationships, following up with patients and leads, wearing all of the hats, you're being crushed under this weight. And now you're not only likely making a little bit less than you may have been making, maybe more than you were making in your previous job, but you're certainly working a lot more. Suddenly you're not working a 40-hour-a-week job. Suddenly you're going to sleep every night wondering about what you got to do in the morning. You're waking up every single morning worried and anxious about the things you need to get done before your first patient shows up. And now it's a 24/7-hour job, and it gets really, really stressful very, very quick. And we call this no man's land. And everyone has to figure out their own way to get through this, where it's like you've now created a job for yourself. You've now become a slave to the machine that you've built. And you have to make the decision for yourself is this something that you want to do for the next 10, 20, 30 years until you retire? For most people we work with, that's a fuck no. It's like maybe you can endure this for a while, but in time, we need to be able to delegate some of that responsibility. We need to turn our job into an actual asset, something that can operate without us so we can actually achieve time freedom. It's funny. There's a lot of coaches that are out there, and you've probably seen this too, Ben, where it's like they're positioning like selling coaching and packages as like having time freedom, as like you're no longer selling time for money simply because you're not selling per visit, but instead selling like a package when it's like that's not even close to time freedom.
You still got fulfillment on that. You still got fulfillment on it regardless. And so it's not, in my opinion, the only way to have true time freedom is building a team. And it's really, I think the reason that if you do the math on it, your hourly rate's actually less. You're making less per hour because the hours that you're working is more. And it's not fun to do that math. But it's the truth. And I think what's also really tough about it is, you get on Saturday and Sunday, leads come in, people are texting the clinic on the weekends, trying to reschedule or cancel their Monday appointments. At the end of the day, you see those notifications come in. You might be with your family, you might be with your friends, and you see that lead come in. And you're like, it's Saturday. I really want to be present with my family or my friends. And you go take that call because you need new patients. But then if you don't, you're like, no, I'm going to be present. I'm going to try to be present. I'm not doing any work. Well, now that lead, by the time Monday rolls around, you might not get a hold of that lead, and that lead's much less likely to convert. And that's in the back of my head. That was always back of my head. Like, oh, I did a great job of not calling that lead, but I was not present because I was like, I should be calling this lead back because I'm going to be regretting on Monday. You've got your practice in your head 24/7 because you are wearing all the hats. And it's that for me was exhausting. So I know there's a lot of other people that are going through that too.
Right. And so like that's a season, but it's like we have to develop the confidence and the courage to be able to get out of that season to the other side. Because on the other side, when you actually start hiring an admin or hiring a PT and delegating more responsibility, suddenly you have more time and leverage than you've ever had. And a lot of people, they never get to that point, even though they're so much closer than they think they are because of that fear. And so I think to summarize kind of what you and I have been saying, Ben, is, we have to figure out how to overcome that fear because it never goes away. We're always afraid of new hires, of buying new equipment, of upgrading facilities. There's always something to be afraid of. But I think the first tip that we have to overcome that fear is to understand the cost of not doing that. And I think far too many PTs that got into the cash physical therapy entrepreneurship game, they still think in terms of months, maybe a year, maybe even less than that. And they don't project out their vision for the lives that they want to create to have enough fear of what they would be missing out on to overcome their fear of actually hiring somebody. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah. So we have to understand, what is it we're giving up? What do you want in 10 years? Do you want to keep working like this for 10 years? Do you plan on having kids? What kind of parent do you want to be? Can you be that parent if you're working 60 hours a week and on weekends you're thinking about leads and relationships? How long can you grind and hustle like that? And if you wait to hire somebody, to ask for help, to hire help until you can't take it anymore, until you're so burnt out you can't move on, well, then who the hell is going to want to work with you? Does that sound like a good leader, an A player is going to want to join the team of? Someone who's burnt out and stressed? It looks like working for your business sucks. Why would they want to do that?
You can't blame them.
Right. So I think the first tip in being more comfortable with hiring is to sit down, whether it's with yourself or with your spouse, and planning out, what do you think in terms of decades? Most billionaires and millionaires, they're thinking in terms of decades, not months and years. Every decision Ben and I make, we already know where we're going to be in 5 to 10 years. And every decision we make is in accordance to that. And so when we have something scary that makes us uncomfortable, like speaking on stage, hosting our first event, whatever it might be, investing in real estate, we're able to be courageous in spite of that fear because we're way more afraid of not achieving that 10 or 20 or 30-year vision for ourselves. So I think that's phase one. How did you map out your life vision for yourself, Ben? Was it a conscious thing that you actually wrote down, or is it just like, I'm Ben Boggy, I'm gonna get
No, it was kind of a combination of it. Like, I wrote down exactly what I wanted my life to look like. Like, hey, if I didn't have to work, like, what would my ideal life look like? Like, how would I spend my days, essentially? And that's like, okay, I got that. How do I do that? And not hiring was not going to get me there by any means. I'm like, all right, if I really want to have this life, like, this is just what has to happen. And I knew that if I was on my deathbed, I would look back and be like, why wouldn't I just do that? Like, it would have been worth it, So I knew I was going to regret it if I didn't do it.
Isn't that funny? It's like, we'll never regret the things that we do or decide to do. We'll only ever regret the things that we didn't. And if there's fear that's holding you back, like, you have to do it. If you're afraid of it, you have to do it. That's what builds character. That's what creates the failures, the thick skin, the character that makes you someone who can win. And if you're unwilling to fail and, take risks, you're better off not playing this game, to be honest. There's a million ways to be happy and be successful in life that have nothing to do with building a business. But if you're not willing to step out of that fear, honestly, like running a solo practice, that is way riskier.
That's honestly the hardest thing. We did another podcast episode on this, but if you're thinking about starting your practice and you don't want to hire, don't start your practice. Go find another cash practice, work for them. Like, you'll be so much more happier than doing your own thing and trying to wear all the hats. So if you really don't want to hire, you're better off just working for another cash practice.
100%. So let's talk about, like, when do we hire? Okay. I'm scared. I understand the risks. I know I need to do it, but like, who? How do I make that decision? I know my philosophy on this might be different than yours, but I'm curious. Tell us.
So
how do you make that call?
Made the call. Well, I think you got to make two decisions: when and how. When do you do it, and then how do you do it? Do you hire an admin, or do you hire a physical therapist first? So we'll cover that today too. For me, the sweet spot that I have found that I wish I would have done is I didn't start hiring until bringing on a PT until I was like at 25 or 30 visits. You're drowning in patients. You don't have time to train. You're exhausted already. The best time to employ somebody is between that 20 to 15 patient mark, and start interviewing people around that 10 to 15 patient mark, because you are going to have more time to do the interview process. You're going to be able to make more logical decision, because I rushed to hire when I was at 25 or 30. I hired somebody more quickly than I should have, in the sense of the vetting process. I was like, I'm drowning patients. I just need help. I'm going to hire anybody and whoever, right? So that's the thing too, is you hire from a place of desperation if you wait too long to a certain extent. So that's the thing too, is like, ask yourself, how many patients would I ideally be seeing in a week? And for me, it was like 15 at the time. Now it's 0, but at the time it was like 15. And I was like, why did it make any sense to scale up to 25 patients to just scale back down to 15? Why didn't just hire when I was at 15? Right now, I would have had much more time to train somebody and all that too. So for me, it's between that 10 to 15 minute mark, 10 to 15 patient mark. But curious what you've seen.
Just to add on to that, because I completely agree. It's like, also make sure that you're charging enough, because if you're at 10 to 15, but you're charging $100 per visit, no chance you're going to be able to pay another person. So if you have zero profit and you're thinking, I need to hire another person to solve your profit problems, don't do that. That's stupid. Okay. Make sure you have a healthy business with dialed in systems and processes with a healthy profit margin, and at 10, maxed out at like 15, maybe 20 patients, using that extra admin time to build the internal infrastructure that when you do interview and go to bring someone in, they can look at your systems and your operations and be like, this is someone who I can trust my livelihood in. I can trust leaving my current job to go and work for this company because I actually know what the hell they're doing. So make sure you have a profit margin. Don't solve your profit problems with hiring somebody. Solve your profit problems first, then bring somebody on. You'll be in a much better position. The other piece that I'd add to that, because I completely agree, is, and this is unique to us. I think other people would probably disagree with this a little bit, but like, I don't believe you should hire somebody for something that you don't know how to do yet. In when you're first getting started. Okay, if you're running, like you, Ben, if you have like a multi-million dollar practice and you want to add in a different specialty, well, then of course, bring in, someone who specializes in functional medicine or DPC. Okay, but when it comes to sales, admin, and your treatment philosophy and the patient experience that you're designing, you can't delegate that stuff. You got to learn how to do it, especially when you're just starting out, so that when you do bring someone in, you can effectively train them. You have proven data that shows that your process works, so that that person can be confident in their role and have someone to go to learn it. If you're delegating the responsibility of building out systems within your practice, you better be ready to pay them insanely well or give up equity. Otherwise, you're not going to attract the type of person who's capable of doing that job well. So, all that to say, before you hire an admin, do the admin work. Develop your SOPs, create the process, create the training for it. Before you hire a PT, document your sales philosophy, how you sell, what the patient experience looks like, and have all of these things nailed down. Because if you hire too soon without this stuff proven out, you're going to waste months and potentially years and tens of thousands of dollars working with the wrong people spinning your wheels. Airdrop yourself into the part of the business that needs to grow, that's broken, fix it, then hand it off.
Yep. I agree. Like that's also how you make the decision about, do I hire an admin or do I hire a PT first?
Yeah.
You cannot hand off something that you're unable to do right now, because
not well anyway.
Not well. No, not well. And it's not going to go well for the business too, because that's what's going to be the standard for scaling. Like the standard that I had at the beginning is the same standard that we have for the 8th PT that we just hired on in Oakland. If I would have been, let's say we converted around 90% of paid in-person evals into plan of cares. If we were at 45%, like half that, and that's what all I've been able to prove, that's all I could expect out of somebody else. Right? That is a new standard that you're going to have for your practice for years to come. Yeah. So just know that before you hire, you want to make sure, hey, I'm in healthy KPI ranges and I'm at a margin that is healthy to grow and scale from here. And I'm comfortable holding somebody else to the standard because I've been able to do it.
Right. How can you hold someone else accountable if you don't know what it actually takes to do it?
Yep. You need to know what it is and how to do it.
Right. And you're going to let everything slide. You're going to let their performance that sucks slide because you don't realize how bad their performance actually is. You have to learn it yourself. Same goes for marketing. A lot of people disagree with us on that, but our success record would prove that this is a pretty effective way to grow and scale your practice. Learn how to market, understand what the baseline success standard actually looks like, develop a process, because if you don't understand any of that, it is so easy for an agency to come in sounding like they know actually knowing what they talk about, but then doing the bare minimum because you don't have the experience to be able to hold them accountable to a certain standard and performance level because you don't have the experience. So learn how to do it. It's way easier than you think. And then once you have a system that's already profitable, that works, and SOPs, now you can hand it off to somebody that could be your admin. It could be someone in town, because now it's not about finding a marketing expert that actually knows what they're doing. Now it's just about finding someone who can follow the SOP that you put together. And that is a way easier, cheaper hire than trying to find a marketer that's not full of shit, that actually cares about your business. Right. So went off on a tangent there. If you want to learn marketing and how to grow and scale your practice with meta ads and organic local relationships, go to clinicalmarketer.com and book a call with our team so we can figure out if working with Ben and I is going to be the thing that you need to turn the corner in your practice and get your time back and start to build your team. Now, Ben, once you know that you have an SOP in place, you have the profit margin to hire somebody, is there another step or tip that you need to have to avoid hiring the wrong person?
Start getting the listing out really early. Like
before.
This is a kind of a funny story, but when I'm in practice in Oakland, I knew I was going to be moving back to Des Moines to start my practice there. Yep. And it was about a month before I moved back. I put a job listing on Indeed for a physical therapist in Des Moines. Was I wanting to hire a PT right then and there? I wasn't looking to hire another one for like another 6 months, but I wanted to just get as many candidates in the pipeline as possible for when the time to hire, instead of people wait too long. Like, okay, I need to hire now, I'm going to put a job listing. Now I'm going to crawl through the applicants. I got to wait for applicants to come in. No, when I'm ready to hire, now I have a pool of applicants to pull from and reach out to about it. But anyways, long story short, because we didn't have a physical address in Des Moines yet, that Indeed, our Indeed company got suspended. So I had to create a new one.
Oh man.
So maybe did a little bit too early on that, but
Yeah.
as long as you got a physical address, it's not too early. But that just goes to show, like, the earlier you can start getting postings out, the better on that.
Yeah. And this goes back to your statement about like, don't wait until you're desperate to start hiring, because then you're just going to hire anybody because you're so desperate for it. So to build off what you just said, like, one, always have an Indeed posting out there, so you're building a catalog of potential hires when you are ready. But to kind of layer into that is your first hire is the most important hire you're going to make, because A players don't want to work with B players. Okay. B players and C players love to work with A players because it's going to make them, up their game. But if your first hire is a C player, all the people that are A players that you might interview that come in and meet the team, they're going to think it's like, I can do better than this. I can find a better team, a better facility, whatever. So that first person is really, really important for not only attracting other A players, but creating the culture that is going to determine how quickly your practice is able to grow. And so that first hire is really, really important. So get those feelers out there, get a lot of candidates, and be patient with it. Focus on just building better systems, better SOPs, increasing profit while you're solo, because you can have a really good 50% profit margin if you are good at building systems. We have a lot of solo people inside the clinical marketer programs who are going to hire eventually, but they're taking their sweet time. They just had kids, but they're operating with a 50% profit margin, making more money than ever, treating on their own terms, and life's pretty good for now. That's going to come to an end eventually, but right now they're enjoying it. And they're able to just sit and wait for that best fit person because of that.
I did want to talk about admin versus PT, which hire first.
Oh yeah, rip it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you might have a different viewpoint on this than I do. So I'll give you the two arguments, the pros and cons of each, and you can make a decision of what you feel is best for you in your situation.
Devil's advocate.
Yes. So one is going to be to hire an admin first. The argument for this is you can hire an admin for cheaper. You can hire an admin usually for 15 to 20 bucks, depending on per hour, depending on your area. You can start getting your time back because you're able to offload $15 or $20 task, and now you're able to treat more, which is going to, we charge over 200 bucks. I'm gonna be able to see a patient when I otherwise would be focused on a quote unquote $20 task. In this argument, it's a $20 task. I'll explain my argument why it's actually lost opportunity greater than $20 per hour if you do hire an admin. But the argument is you hand off a $20 task, you have more time to dedicate to a patient care, which generates more revenue, or working on the business, which generates more revenue. Yep. In theory, yes, that makes sense. The problem with that goes back to the last thing that we talked about for the last 10 minutes, handing off something that you are not proficient in yet. With the admin, they're going to be doing phone calls. They are going to be doing the sales calls. They are going to be the first person that a person contacts. They're going to be the lifeline of your business, new patients. If you got a bunch of people calling in, but they're not scheduling, that is what's going to cost you way more than the 20 bucks that you're saving of time to go treat another patient. You're going to have much more lost opportunity from patients not converting into paid evals because you handed off a task that you're not quite proficient at. It's much easier to hire on a PT and have them do physical therapy, the skill that they already know. You don't need to train that. You will have to train them in sales for in-person sales, but that is a hell of a lot easier than training a front desk admin who doesn't, one, have any medical background, most likely. Two, a lot of them don't have sales background. So many people just hire an admin for admin work, but then also they throw on sales. No, they have no background in sales. You're gonna have to teach them how to do that, and you have no idea if they have that skill set. And you might not even have that skill set yet, where you're converting where you need to. And so that's why ProConnect has scaled to where we have, is because I did not hand off the phone script until I felt like I had it completely perfected. Then I handed off. So I actually hired on 3 PTs before I brought on a front desk to do sales. Did have a front desk to help with admin stuff, but that's why we scaled. So I'm a big proponent on hiring on PT because it's much easier to train and hire for that than it is to try and hire for an admin, and all the lost opportunity that's going to occur because you hand that off too early. So that's my position on it. But yeah, give me devil's advocate on that.
I'm a clinician. I shouldn't need to be working on the phones. That's beneath me.
Mm. That's an ego issue. That's an
I
ego.
hate those people. It's so hard to play devil's advocate with it because it's like,
it's like get over yourself.
yeah, yeah,
That's because I don't have somebody in front of me stating that. I can just say simply get over yourself. You are not above or beneath any task in your business, and with that attitude, you will always stay stuck. My entire role is just Jordan actually loaded this for me. It's just airdropping myself into my business wherever the main bottleneck is. It does not matter the task at all. It does not matter the task. There's no task, big or small, that I'm above. Because at the end of the day, it's the bottleneck in the business. It's the most important thing. And so I'll actually switch that. If you feel like you have that big enough ego that you are above that, you are not above the bottleneck that's in your business. Let's flip the switch on the thinking. You are not above the biggest bottleneck in your business.
Right. Your only job as the CEO of your business is to solve problems. You're the person that people turn to when things are broken. You're the captain of the ship. You're holding the compass and the map. And if you don't know how to do that, you're not an effective leader. You are going to delegate responsibility to other people and be in a perpetual state of disappointment because the people you're paying aren't the same as you. Okay. Like there are entrepreneurs and then there's people who are just doing a job because it brings them joy, fulfillment, and pays their bills enough for them to go on living their life. Work is not their life. And so they're never going to put the same time, energy, and effort into whatever it is you assign them to figure out. Anytime you're delegating responsibility, you are hurting your long-term leverage as a CEO. I've had this poster in every office I've had since the first startup I made when I was 21. It's a quote by Eric Ries. It says, "The only way to win is to learn faster than everybody else." And so many, not just in PT, like all in healthcare, there's so much ego. There's so much thinking that they're above marketing or above sales, that everyone should just trust and believe them. And, their word is law and people should just listen, is killing so many practices and so many industries just because the people that have fewer credentials, that are less experienced, they're compensating with that lack of experience with business savviness. And they're kicking the shit out of individual private practices that are unwilling to learn how to market themselves. That's why there's personal trainers getting away with doing rehab and pain relief. It's actually really sad. And it's like in functional medicine right now, there's people who have no healthcare background who are blowing up right now because they're focusing on learning the skills that create attention and curiosity and get people to actually buy stuff. So I just went on a rant right there, but that's like, there's so much of that.
Yeah. Honestly, I say for those personal trainers, PTs are going to hate me for saying this. Good for them figuring that out because that's not on them. That's on us for not marketing, not learning sales. Like PTs bash on like personal, like the gym out there, Lifetime Fitness.
Yep.
Lifetime Fitness that's now using the DPT. It's like dynamic personal trainer, and so it stands for DPT. And PTs are up in arms about them using that name. Like, hey, you can bitch and complain about that, or you can self-reflect on like, hey, maybe we really need to learn how to do sales and marketing and look inside. What can we control? Why are we like this as a profession that we are so opposed to, or just think that we're above learning marketing, sales, and human psychology of how to get buy-in from people?
I think just any experience in med school teaches you this like hierarchy of like, once you have this like credential or whatever, it's like you automatically earned respect because you know what they had to go through to get that. But when you go out into the real world, nobody cares because no one knows what you had to go through to get that. The only thing anybody cares about is if you can describe their problem well enough for them to believe that you can actually solve their problem. That's the only thing that people care about. Your credentials don't mean jack. I've had to tell that to some people, and actually everyone's been really, they needed that and they appreciated that. Because at the end of the day, it's, can you convince people that you can solve their problem? And the better you are at doing that, the higher prices you're able to charge. So yeah, people got to learn this. Oh, this is something I want to add in there. A lot of people think that they're above learning like marketing or sales. And so they spend months and years hiring new PTs who are better at selling, who have less experience in network, so they'll be more confident in pitching packages, or they're hiring marketing agency after marketing agency or admin after admin because they're just not, their lead to booking rate isn't high enough or whatever it is. And they waste so much money, tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars cycling through all of these people year after year. And the amount of time that's wasted on that is obviously insane. People spend their whole lives never actually figuring it out, being stuck in this mediocrity, not realizing that if they just got over their own freaking ego and spent 90 days, 3 months committed to being proficient at that skill and creating processes around that skill so that they can actually delegate it effectively, they would not only save hundreds of thousands of dollars, they would save months and years, because that one thing that you're trying so hard to not have to do, you could have mastered it in 3 months if you just sat down, sucked it up, and did the work. That's my piece.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Got passionate on here today. Anything else you want to add to this, Ben?
No, I think that's, obviously make the decision what you feel is best for yourself between admin and PT, but I feel strongly with my practice and helping over 100 plus clinic owners that PT is a way to go to hire first, but obviously make your own decision, but I said my piece.
I love that you always say 100. We helped like 600. Almost 1,000. It's been 5 years, 6 years then.
I'll change it to hundreds.
I love it. Everybody, if you got value out of this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe for weekly rantings by Ben and myself around what's working, what's broken within the physical therapy space to help you break through, to help you step into the version of yourself you need to be to help the people you want to have, to create the life that you want to have. If you have questions or if there's anything that you want to do or for us to answer and to support you with, don't forget to drop them in the comments. And if you want to work with Ben and myself and the rest of the clinical marketer team to help scale your practice with guarantees and all that good stuff behind it, make sure you go to clinicalmarketer.com and apply to work with us, where we can reach out and get a call booked if it makes sense. Have a good day, everybody.